Hello and welcome to Pet Pals, the show that features the animals of Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. I'm Sean Snyder, and with me is Randy Cooper, and with Randy is Charlie. Charlie is our first guest today. Charlie is a Jack Russell Terrier mix, and while we were getting ready, Randy and I were speculating what he may be mixed with, and Randy sees a little beagle in there, and I see maybe a little Chihuahua, but that's the great thing about mixed breed dogs. There's always all kinds of dogs in its gene pool, and a lot of times you get some good qualities out of from the different breeds. Charlie is 3 years old. He is a male, and he was surrendered by his previous owner. His previous owner decided they could not care for him anymore because they had to move. And if you watch the show, you know that is the most common reason people give their pets up to us. We understand that people do move and sometimes they can't make those accommodations to take their pet with them, but we always encourage people to seek all or exhaust all alternatives before coming to the shelter. Charlie's doing well with Randy. Randy has spent the last 10-15 minutes with him, but back in his kennel he is nervous and shy with new people. The environment here can be overwhelming for some dogs, so because of his shyness and his nervousness, we are recommending that he goes to a home with older children or an adult home only. At times, little kids can obviously overwhelm dogs, or they can maybe move too quickly, and a shy or nervous dog could maybe be somewhat reactive to that, just trying to protect itself from a small kid running at them too fast or making loud noises. His previous owners did tell us that that Charlie had lived with cats. So we would feel that he would do well with a cat in the house, and they said that he's housebroken and that he does well in a crate as well. Since Charlie's been here, it looks like we've given him a few vaccinations. We vaccinate all our dogs with the Bordetella vaccine to help prevent kennel cough, and then we also recently began testing all of our dogs for heartworm and Lyme's disease, so adopters know where that stands when they're adopting a dog. So if you're interested in a small dog and you have a nice quiet home, Charlie might be the dog for you. You can visit him here at the shelter, 1832 Rosemont Avenue. Our next guest is Brutus. Brutus is a 7-year-old Chihuahua mix who was turned in by his previous owner. His previous owner told us that they had owned him for his whole life and that they had a change in lifestyle, and that's why they decided to give him up. So at 7 years old, Brutus is trying to start over, and obviously we're trying to find the right family for him. A lot of people like little dogs, but there's some things you have to consider with little dogs in general, and then sometimes you really got to think about the breed of little dog. Little dogs, generally speaking, can have poor dental health. Their teeth can acquire more tartar and plaque and those kinds of things, which require them to have dental scalings, at times if it goes too far, teeth removed, all of those things. Brutus has a luxating patella. It's a grade 2, which is lower on the scale, but what a luxating patella is, basically one of his knees pops out and then it pops back in. If that gets too bad, he will actually have to have surgery to repair that, and that's another issue that comes with small dogs at times. So right now it's in the mid-range scale, but over time that could get worse. It looks like he is house trained, but he does have accidents at times, and sometimes smaller dogs, they just can't hold their bladder as long. So someone needs to be willing to make accommodations for him or set up something so that if he has an accident, that will be all right with them. Little Brutus, he only weighs in at 8 pounds, 10 ounces, so he's not going to get much bigger, and you don't want him to get much bigger. He's a good weight now. He's not overweight, he's not underweight. He is not neutered at this time, but part of the adoption fee does include adopting him. Since he's 7 years old, his adoption fee is actually reduced by $20, so he can be adopted for $72.50. So we can see Brutus settled in quite nicely to Randy's lap, and if you like Brutus, he could be settling nicely into your lap. Our next guest is Hazel. Hazel is a 2-year-old domestic shorthair, and she is actually a return to shelter, and that is, you can probably figure out a cat that was adopted or a dog that's been adopted from us, and then they're brought back to us. It's about 10% of the animals we adopt out come back, and with Brutus, I was talking about that we try and give people all the information we have. And sometimes even though all the information is provided, things don't work out. So part of our adoption contract is if you can't keep the animal you adopted from us, we want you to bring the animal back to us. And you can see Hazel's back on our adoption floor, now on Randy's lap, and we're looking for another home for her. So the reason she was brought back, she was brought to us because she was urinating outside her litter box. She was urinating in the litter box and she was urinating outside the litter box. Her owners, it looks like, tried to do a lot of things for her to try and solve that problem. They had her about 2 months, and from the profile they filled out, it looks like they tried to confine her to a smaller space with a box. They took her to a vet, and they moved the litter box around. And it sounds like they tried to do a lot of things. When she came back, we tested to see if she'd use a litter box here, and she was using her litter box. And here, the difference between us and a home is obviously they're living in such a smaller space that there's not as much room for air. It's almost as if you're in the litter box or you're not in your litter box. But we did send out a urinalysis for Hazel, and what we found was she had a higher level of struvite crystals, which is basically crystals in her urine, which can cause cats to have to urinate more frequently and unexpectedly. So what Hazel's going to need from her next adopter is someone who is committed to keeping her on a prescription special diet to decrease the chances that those crystals form in her urine. These crystals can also cause urinary tract infections and things like that. So that will be a lifelong commitment to that diet. So at 2 years old, Hazel has a long life ahead of her, and she is a great cat. Hazel is a great example of someone wanting to adopt her. We want to hand you her medical records so you know what you're getting into. And if you need photocopies to take to your vet so you can have a conversation of how much will this diet cost me, those kinds of things, we want you to know all that. So Hazel's a great cat looking for her next home. She's available for adoption, obviously, on our cat floor, and she would love a visit from you. Our next guest is Yeti. Yeti is a Himalayan, and his Himalayan color is seal point, and he's between 8 and 10 years old. We're estimating his age because he came in as a stray. He was actually found in the Woodsboro area, 194 Coppermine Road, and he was found on March 23rd. No one has claimed him since, so we were hoping someone would come in, him being somewhat more of a unique cat, and claim him. Another unique thing about Yeti is that he is declawed on all 4 paws. The shelter does not advocate declawing, but at times people come in, look for declawed cats, and Yeti fits that bill. So you're probably noticing that he is shaved on his throat area and around to his shoulders. Yeti came in and part of, obviously, any animal that comes to us, we give him medical exams. And part of his medical exam determined that he had severe dental disease. And during the initial exam, we felt a lump somewhere around his thyroid on his throat. So one of our veterinary partners, Buckystown Vet Hospital, actually performed dental surgery on him, removed several teeth. His teeth were in very bad shape. He had several teeth missing already, and several were rotten that they needed to be taken out. And then they were going to remove the lump too. But after they shaved him down and they tried to locate the lump, and they could not find the lump. So nothing was removed and nothing is felt now. So his fur will grow back to normal and it will be lush and plush just like it was before. Yeti is a great cat, and that's one of the things that always puzzles people that work here. We have animals that come in as strays. They're well socialized. It looks like they were cared for by someone at some point, but no one comes forward and claims them. And part of what I do is I talk to groups of people, and one thing I say to everybody and the people who are watching this show, you can be advocates for the shelter and animals here. And one thing you can help us with is just tell people that if they lose their pet, they need to come file a loss report with us. We want people to take their animals back. So Yeti, being 10 years old, he qualifies for that second tier adoption discount. So his adoption discount will be $40, and you can take him home for $52.50. The one thing about the shelter, we do not pass costs on to our adopters. So his dental surgery, the exploratory to look for the lump around his thyroid, we paid a bill for that obviously, but we do not pass that on. Our goal for Yeti is for him to find another home, and that we only see him if they send us pictures of how he's doing in the new home. So if you've been looking for a Himalayan cat or a more exotic cat, Yeti might be the guy for you. He will likely adjust well to a new home. Being older, he's not going to be too demanding of you, but at the same time, he looks like a cat that will enjoy spending time on your lap. Stop by and pay him a visit. Our next guest is Spunky. Spunky is a 6-year-old female domestic shorthair, and you can see she is gray and white in color. She's kind of hiding there in Randy's lap, and she is a cat that's a little more shy. So here at the shelter, you've probably heard us mention on the show that we color code our animals. So part of that color coding goes back to what I talked about earlier, is we're trying to give you as much information as possible. So Spunky is color coded green. For a cat, what that typically means is this is a cat that is a little more shy, and that it takes longer for them to settle in with new people or new environment. So here at the shelter, she would likely be the cat that's not at the front of their cage greeting people. She may be a little more reserved and hangs out at the back of her cage. In your home, day one, we encourage you, probably day 1 through 10, we encourage you to limit where your new cat can go. But she is a new cat that would maybe hide more from the new family. But what tends to happen with shy cats is they get to know new people, they get to know their new environment, and they start to come out of their shell and they become more comfortable with the new situation. So that would likely happen with Spunky. It would just need some time and patience from her adopter. So Spunky was given up by a family, and it looks like her story's somewhat of a sad one, like a lot of the animals that came here. It appears she was owned by an older lady, and the lady passed away. And the person's family tried to keep Spunky, and it didn't work out because they had a new baby that developed allergies to Spunky. So they decided to turn Spunky into the shelter. So, you know, Spunky obviously lived with probably an older person for a long time, and the house was quiet, not a lot of activity, and then that person passed away, and Spunky went to one of the family members, and then a new baby arrived, and now Spunky finds herself here at the shelter. So like a lot of our animals, all she needs is a little bit of love, patience, and time, and she'll become a great pet. It looks like she came in already spayed, so that's taken care of. We did bring her up to date on a few of her vaccinations, rabies, feline distemper. We provide all cats with a general dewormer, and then we give them a level of flea protection with Revolution. All cats on our adoption floor have been tested for feline leukemia and feline AIDS, and she did test negative for both of those viruses. Since Spunky's 6 years of age, she does qualify for a $20 adoption discount, so you can take her home for $77.50. That's a look at our first 5 animals. We're going to take a short break, and after the break, we'll take a look at 5 more cats available for adoption here at the shelter.
Hi, I'm Tracy, and this is Catherine. We are Frederick County 911 dispatchers, and we're here to tell you what to expect when dialing 911.
We're on the line to listen, and we also have important instructions to give you. Your 911 operator needs to get essential information from you as quickly as possible by asking the following questions in this order.
What is the address of the emergency so we can send the right help to the right location? What is the phone number you're calling from? If the line disconnects, we may need to call you back. What is your name so we can address you properly? And tell me exactly what happened. Asking these questions allows operators to start dispatch to emergencies quickly.
Your 911 operator is often working closely with 1 or more dispatchers, obtaining important information which is relayed to responders who are on the way to your location while you are still on the phone.
This process is repeated on each call to ensure responders get to each emergency as quickly and safely as possible with the right information to provide the best service they can.
Law enforcement, fire and rescue, and other responders rely on 911 operators and dispatchers to obtain specific information that varies with each type of call. Sometimes it may seem as though your 911 operator is asking a series of unnecessary questions, but in fact this information is vital for getting the right help sent to the right place. Often, help is already on the way while your 911 operator is talking to you.
While emergency crews are responding, dispatchers continue to provide them with updated information gathered by your 911 operator.
Also, your 911 operator may be able to provide you with important life-saving direction, from how to safely exit a building on fire to CPR instruction, providing important information for staying safe and out of danger during a vehicle accident, as well as helping a caller deliver a baby.
For more information, visit frederickcountymd.gov/911 or call the non-emergency number at 301-600-1603.
Welcome back. We're going to take a look at 5 more cats. Often when you watch Pet Pals lately, probably you notice we have more cats or other animals than we do dogs. And recently what has been happening is we don't have as many dogs, but at the same time, people have been coming in, and the dogs that we have, they get taken very quickly. A little bit later in the show, I'll talk to you about what website to use to have the most current animals available at our shelter. But right now, I want to talk about Spencer. Spencer is one of few right now kittens we have. He is 3 months old, domestic short hair, and he came in with 3 siblings, so there were 4 total in the litter. And what's happening right now at the shelter is, yes, we are taking kittens in, but they're so young we're not able to adopt them out. So we have a very robust foster care program, a lot of great families that what they do is they take the kittens when they're not old enough to be adopted, usually mom too if mom comes in. They care for them, they socialize them, they expose them to their children, at times their pets, and they make these kittens awesome for families to take home, adopt, and become part of their family. Same goes with the mothers. A lot of the mothers get a lot of extra attention being in these foster homes. So Spencer and his siblings lived for a short time in a foster home. They actually came to us on the verge of being old enough to be adopted. They were about a week, 2 weeks shy of being able to be adopted. And when we consider a kitten to be adopted is when it's 3 pounds, and that is usually about 12 weeks of age. At 3 pounds, we spay and neuter kittens, so that's female and male. So Spencer, being a kitten, he is pretty much the next person who adopts him, ball of clay to mold. They will train him if he's allowed to go certain places, obviously teach him not to scratch things. And being a kitten, he's going to be curious, so you're going to have to be careful about the plants you have. He's going to want to possibly scratch stuff, and you're going to have to train him what's appropriate and what's not. He is a kitten, and he will likely want to run around at 2 a.m. So these are all things that people need to be aware of with kittens. A lot of people get caught up in how cute they are, and of course they're cute, but you also have to keep in mind that kittens become cats, and cats obviously need homes too. So if you're interested in a kitten, Spencer is one that is available for adoption right now at this moment. And over the summer and through the spring here, we will have many, many more kittens that become available. Our next guest is Romeo. He's 2 to 3 years old, domestic short hair, and he's brown tabby with white. And we chose to give him the name Romeo because he was a stray and we didn't know his name. And we were talking here before we started filming and saying how friendly he is. He was talking up a storm. He is rubbing into Randy's hand. He is actually drooling a little bit, which drooling from a cat is usually a sign that they're content, they're happy. It's just like purring, except some cats will drool. So Romeo came to us as a stray, like I said, and it looks like he came in from the Thurmont area April 11th, so he hasn't been with us for too long. Now, he was brought in by a private citizen versus being brought in by an animal control officer. And the private citizen speculated that one of the people moved out of the neighborhood, and once that person moved out, Romeo started appearing. So what they were speculating was that the person left Romeo behind, which would be a shame, him being such a sweet cat. At the same time, what I want everyone to know is, being a county facility, we are here for county residents. We do encourage people to seek every other alternative before bringing a pet here, but residents of Frederick County can bring their pet to us. There is no cost to turn a domesticated animal into our shelter. Our goal obviously is to find homes for as many animals as possible. So if that speculation is true, we would have obviously been able to gather more information about Romeo, what he likes, what he doesn't like, you know, what's his vaccination history. Because we don't know that, we need to give him vaccinations, which we may be doubling up on because we just don't know what his past history was. We provide him the same level of care we provide every other cat that comes in. He came to us neutered, so he doesn't need to be neutered, but upon leaving, he'll be microchipped. He was given the vaccinations I talked about, given preventative things such as dewormers and rabies vaccination, flea and tick treatment so that he's protected while he's here. So Romeo is a cat looking for his next home. He's a big guy. He weighs in at he's not that big actually, 8 pounds, 15 ounces. He looks a lot bigger in Randy's lap, so he's right around 9 pounds, and he could be your next cat. Our next guest is Kit Kat. She is a domestic short hair, classic brown tabby with some white on her, and she's approximately 1 year old. Recently, this past Monday, April 18th, she was spayed. So after animals are spayed or neutered here, we typically have a recovery room. So right now she is spending a little bit of time in our recovery room, and shortly she'll come back out to the adoption floor. She was given up by her previous owner, and the reason they said they gave her up was because the brother moved. And now, we do ask people to fill these out, and at times the reasoning they put on is not necessarily explained. So I have to assume that that Kit Kat belonged to the brother, and the brother chose not to take Kit Kat along, and the person, his sister, declined to keep Kit Kat, so she came to us. It looks like they did have Kit Kat her whole life, and that they considered her a lap cat. So earlier I had mentioned about a website that has all of our adoptable animals, and most people are familiar with a website called Pet Finder, and we still do publish all our animals to Pet Finder, but what a lot of people don't realize is Pet Finder is a totally manual process for us, that someone has to put the animal up there, they have to put all the descriptions and everything in there, and that can't happen 24/7. We actually rely on another website called Pet Tango, and the web address is www.pettango.com/FCAC. And what that website does, it ties directly to our database. So as soon as an animal becomes available, that animal is up on our website. Now, there may not be a picture yet, but you'll actually have a little thing that says no photo available, and you'll see what the breed is. If it's a dog or if it's a cat, you'll see its color and how old it is. So in the last year or so, we've been pushing a lot more people toward Pet Tango because the animals that are on there are actually here at the shelter. You see the most current animals. So if you're interested in a friendly female cat, Kit Kat may be the girl for you. Our next cat is Taz. He's a handsome domestic short hair, 5 years of age, and you can see he's orange tabby. And a lot of cat people know that typically, not always, but typically orange tabby cats are male. There are certain colors of cats that are always female. There's no color that's always male, but most orange tabbies are male. He's, like I said, 5 years of age. And Taz actually came in with our first guest today, Charlie, the Jack Russell Terrier. And the two of them actually came in with another cat. Now, sometimes people will say, well, if Taz had a cat companion, why aren't they being housed together? What we do is we basically assess animals if they come in together, if they're able to live a good life mentally, emotionally without each other. And it was determined that Taz and the other cat, whose name's Opal, liked each other, but they weren't necessarily attached to each other. So we did separate them, and part of that also comes from Taz weighs almost 20 pounds. So he is a big cat, and to put two big cats in one cage is just not a lot of space for those cats. You can hear he is a bit of a talker. So right now he's talking in Randy's lap, looking around at the new environment he's in. And a lot of times when we bring him into our studio, it is foreign and strange to him. And often the first time they meet Randy, so it can take a little bit to settle in. He's doing well in Randy's lap, though. The previous owner did say that he is more of an independent cat. And a lot of cats, they have that personality that they like to spend time with their family when they want to spend time with their family. And then there's other times that they're not mean, they just want to do their own thing. So they'll go lay in a sunbeam, they'll go mosey along to another room and just hang out in that room. So Taz obviously has lived with another dog, lived with another cat. In the home there were young children. It looks like an infant 3 years old and 5 years old. So he's been around younger kids, and I'm sure he's quite savvy at spending time with those young kids, or if he wanted to, finding a place where they could not get to him. So at 5 years of age, Taz does qualify for that the first tier discount, which is $20 off his adoption fee. So you can take him home for $77.50. Our last cat is Venus. Venus is a 3-year-old domestic shorthair, and her color is tortoiseshell, or I should say her pattern's more tortoiseshell. With the last cat, Taz, I had mentioned that orange tabbies are mostly male, and there's certain colors that are always female. This color patterning is always female. So if you see a cat that's this color, you can tell right away without even getting close to it that it's a girl cat. So it looks like Venus came to us being what we would say loosely owned. So someone had been caring for her for an extended period of time, and caring for her likely not inside. She was still an outdoor cat. And they decided they had too many cats, and they brought her to us. So that was the exact reason they gave for giving her up. It says too many cats, female. And they also said that she was around 6 other cats. So she definitely probably would get along with another cat. What she will need is a patient family. Because she lived with so many other cats, she wasn't socialized as much with people when she was younger, or even as an adult. So she's not as used to being handled, being picked up. She is by no means fighting Randy or not trusting of Randy. It's just that she hasn't had that interaction like a lot of cats have. She can make someone a wonderful cat. What's great about cats is, even though they maybe come from a family that didn't spend a lot of time with them or have been pet, once they get into a new environment, get into a routine, learn that the person caring for them is someone that they can trust, they begin to open up to that person. Now, if you'd have company over, Venus may still be scared and shy and hide, but at the same time, a lot of people look for a cat for themselves. So, just with a little time and patience, she can become a wonderful cat. I want to take this opportunity to let everyone know that we are planning our annual open house. It will be Sunday, May 15th. It's from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Typically, we are not open to the public on Sunday. People can come to the shelter and obviously view animals that day, apply on animals. But what's a little bit different is we typically have other pet-related vendors here. There's usually vet clinics here with information. We have a bunch of activities for the kids, such as a moon bounce and crafts and face painting. There is no cost to attend. At times people ask how much it costs. So mark that date on your calendar, Sunday, May 15th from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. That's this week's show. We hope you enjoy watching it, and we'll see you next week.